On this episode of What a Week, there's a trip to London, there's a lucky iron fish, and I'm going to tell you how your computer can pronounce words for you. And that's something I definitely need this week on What a Week. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm James Messer, and on this week on What a Week, I thought I'd go through a few things that have been occurring. I've got a trip to London that I'm going to talk about and some interesting stories that I've run across during the week. I also found a way to get some free books on my Kindle that I didn't know about, and I'll tell you about that as well. But I wanted to start off the week with some of the things that I did over the last couple of weeks. This has really been an ongoing thing, but I think I'm finally getting back into my Eastern time zone here in our Tallahassee, Florida headquarters. I went to London for a CompTIA conference and really had a fantastic time. But it was more than just the conference that we did. And I wanted to share a few of those things with you. There was one of those situations where you get into a place and I know that I'm going to be there for quite some time. I'm going to be there. Landed on a Monday. I'm leaving on a Friday. The conference was one of those days during the week, so I thought I'd spend a lot of time to see the city. I've been there a number of times, but wanted to really go out and see what it was all about. One of the first things I did, and this was a recommendation that I got from someone on the Professor Messer chat room, was to go out to the Oxford Street at the 1st of November. They turn on all the Christmas lights. So I thought it'd be interesting to go down there. And sure enough, all the lights were on, and it was rainy and it was cold and there was people everywhere. It was perfect. It was the perfect London type of experience. Later on in the week, the sun came out. It was much better weather, and everybody else thought it was great, and I thought that I was missing something. So I got a little bit of both while I was there. One of the nice things about being there was that we were able to attend this conference. I was invited by CompTIA to speak, and they had a really nice facility set up, and it was a great conference. But I also took out some time to meet folks while I was there. I arranged to have a meetup and to talk to people that were there, and we really had a great time meeting everyone, seeing what was going on in London, hear more about stories of what people are doing there. It's such a great experience. Plus, it was at a pub, so there's beer involved. And of course, how can that be bad either? So it was a lot of fun. And now I'm finally back in the United States and trying to get back in my time zone. And it has been actually 2 weeks now where I've been trying to get back into this time zone, and I still am about an hour off, it seems. Now, of course, in the midst of all that, I come back from London, and the time changes here. We go to a daylight saving time. We went back to another hour. We fell back an hour. Now, I'm trying to recover from all of that at once. But all of that aside, it really turned out to be a really nice trip. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And one of the things that I want to do is more of that later on. I want to get back to London, want to see more of what's going on in other parts. One of the things I really liked also about London was your train system. In the United States, we do have these trains and commuter rail type systems, but really nothing like that is going on in Europe. It's very unique how you would just miss a train and 60 seconds later, another one was pulling up right there. As an American, I'm not used to such things, and you get spoiled very quickly because I just use the train to go everywhere. I stayed at a hotel right next to the tube station, hopped down there, and went everywhere that way. And it really was a fantastic way to travel. It was a great time to be there in London. One of the things as I was going through this week and looking at the different stories for the week is I ran across a very interesting one on boingboing.net. And this one was not just a story that dealt with one particular aspect or one particular thing. There were a lot of nuances in it. Plus, it was just a great story overall. And it is about a lucky fish. This is one where it was a gentleman who was just graduating from college with his bachelor's degree. His name, it's right here in the story. And I'll have this, the links on this will be in the notes for the podcast. But this is Chris Charles, and he got a degree in biomedical science, a bachelor's degree. And right after he got his bachelor's degree, he went off to Cambodia. And he was doing some work in Cambodia with a group that was trying to solve a lot of problems dealing with anemia, where you do not have enough iron in your blood. And in very poor parts of the world, this lack of iron in the blood, this anemia, causes serious problems, especially as it dealt with women and dealt with childbirth. For instance, there was premature labor, hemorrhaging during childbirth, poor brain development of the children, just a lot of different kind of medical issues. So he went out there to try to figure out a way, how can we make it so that we can increase the amount of iron in the blood? And one of the very common ways, if you've ever cooked with cast iron skillets or cast iron equipment on your stove, the iron leaches out of what you're cooking in, and the iron gets into the food, and it helps the iron content of your blood. It's a very common way to do it. But in these poor areas, these big cast iron, if you've ever picked up a cast iron skillet, it's very, very heavy, and they don't like to cook with those. So one of the ways to get around that is you take a piece of iron and you put it in the pot that you're using to cook the food. And they had tried to get people to do this in Cambodia. Worldwide, there's 3.5 billion people in the world having this problem. We can just start here by having them just put a block of iron into the pot. Well, that really didn't go over very well. That was not something they wanted to do. Obviously, putting a block of iron in a pot, it's not even something you would think you would want to do. But in fact, it would have really helped. So they tried some other things. They took the iron and created a lotus flower out of the iron. That was prettier, but that didn't work either. It was only after they discovered there was a local river, and in that local river was a fish that everyone thought was a lucky fish. And they made the iron in the shape of the fish, and now everybody wanted to put it into the pot and cook all of the food. And it was such an interesting twist, I thought. There's a medical side to this, of course, which I'm not familiar very much with at all, except for what I read here. And the Mrs. Professor Messer is a nurse, and she fills me in on some of these different things. But I also like that there was a twist here with not only putting this into and having a medical component to it, but also a marketing component. There's an idea whenever you deal with marketing that marketing is bad. Someone is marketing to you. But I thought this was a really delightful example of how you can take something that people find personable to them, or something that they find familiar, or in the case of this particular lucky fish, it's even more than that. They think it's lucky to have that fish there. Why not have it in the pot that you cook with? And what he's now found, that they've completed this and gone through the studies, is that now the iron levels are up. People's headaches are going away. You're having healthier mothers. You're having healthier babies. Really a remarkable story, I thought. I'll put the link to that story in the notes, but I thought that was a perfect example of something to put on What a Week. Another thing I found this week is that I was looking through, I have the Kindle from Amazon. And as I was looking at this Kindle, I was looking at the different books. And one of the things that I saw was that a number of books were free. This was something called the Lending Library from Amazon, the Kindle Owners Lending Library. And I had not heard of this before. It was something that really started, I think, earlier this month, last month. This is something relatively new, but I didn't know about it. Now, you have to be a Prime member of Amazon. That's, I think, a $79 in the US every year. And you get things like 2-day shipping. And I've been a Prime member for a long time because I love the 2-day shipping. And I also like that they added on things like streaming media. You can be a Prime member and you can actually get free movies streamed down, very much like Netflix does. And they have their own library as well. And I didn't realize they added on to this lending library. And there's a lot of books in here, very popular books. This isn't like the free books that you would see off to the side. These are mainstream books from mainstream authors, things that normally you would purchase. But here's the hook, because I have an iPad, I have my Kindle on my computer. I can read Kindle there, but you can't use the lending library unless you have an Amazon Kindle device. Aha, that's how they get you. So you'd have to have one of the Kindles, either the black and white, maybe the new Kindle Fire, and you would be able to use that. And I thought that was an interesting twist on things. Amazon is really starting to take a lot of the muscle that they have in the industry and be able to use that and leverage it against the competition. And for better or worse, there's just more free things for the consumer. And I thought it was perfect timing as well with the holiday season here. A lot of people thinking, should I get the new Nook? Should I get the new Kindle? Should I get an iPad? And the only way you can get the videos streamed to you on this on the Kindle, and also have the lending library on the Kindle, both on that Kindle Fire and the books across all the different Kindles, was to be the Prime member and have that Amazon device. I thought that was quite the hook associated with it. But because my daughter wanted to read a book yesterday, and the book was already in this lending library, and it says, well, you could pay this, but if you are a Prime member, it's free to you. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly how much this is going to go, how long they're going to have this. Are they going to add more books to this? It's an interesting concept, and it will be interesting to see what Amazon finally does with this. But if you've got a Kindle, this may be an opportunity to maybe read some more books. I think that's another good opportunity here. It's just another thing you can use to keep reading and keep doing what you're doing with your Kindle. I was also traveling a lot over the past month. I mentioned the trip to London, but I also do a lot of smaller trips here and there. I go all over the place, especially in the Southeast United States, but in other places as well. Sometimes I'm flying quite a bit. And what I often run into is I'm usually traveling with other people, or I'm traveling into a city where somebody else might already be there. And when I travel into those cities, they say, oh, I'll just pick you up at your hotel. We'll take my car, we'll drive around and do what we need to do. And that usually works out fine. But when you're in a hotel, you're in a different city, you could be in a different time zone. You're trying to figure out how long it's going to be before they get to the hotel. I want to stay in my room and complete some things on my computer, work a little bit, but I don't know where they are. Sometimes I have to pack everything up, and now I'm sitting in the lobby for 30 minutes just waiting for somebody to arrive. And then I ran across Glimpse. What Glimpse is, this is Glympse. Glimpse is an application that you can use both on your desktop and on your mobile device, and your mobile device is really where this is key. You can take all of these things in Glimpse. You click Glimpse and you say, please send a glimpse to James. I'm leaving my house, and James is going to get a text message, and I'll click on that text message, and I'll see where that person is. And it's linked into the GPS in their phone. And it keeps updating itself, very much like this screen is doing here on the Glimpse website. You see it just like this. So I'm watching them on my phone. I can see exactly where they are. I can see how fast their car is going. I can see if they've run into traffic. And I can look and see, oh, they're getting off the interstate right now. Let me grab my things and go downstairs. And the moment now I'm walking out the door, they're pulling up. It's quite remarkable. And I've used this to when I'm working with customers, I'll send this to customers saying I'm on my way. I'll use this with family members. I'll pick you up at the airport. Here's where I am. And I can see exactly where they are. Quite a remarkable thing. Now, of course, it makes you think about privacy concerns. It makes you think about how this is going to be used. Can other people see this glimpse? And they put in a number of privacy pieces so that even if somebody was to see this, they would not know who you were. But another nice piece of it is that it's very private. I can choose exactly who gets to see the glimpse. I can even send it to multiple people at one time. So at least you have a little bit of control over that, a lot of control over that. You can control how private you'd like to be with this. And at any time, if you feel like maybe I've decided I don't want these people to see what I'm doing, you can disable it immediately, and then they get no more updates from where that came from. But a great little utility. I thought it'd be perfect to tell you on What a Week, since that's something that I was running across this week. The other thing I wanted to show associated with some of these sites and some of the things that we're doing is another interesting site. And I ran into this one whenever I was working with that story I told you about earlier, the university that had that person was able to grab that fish, the fish that they were working with in Cambodia, when Chris Charles was at this University of, and I'm going to show you this name because here's the problem I ran into. Here's the university, the name of it, Guelph. Now, I looked at that and thought, how would I pronounce Guelph? I wasn't quite sure. So I found this website called Forvo. There it is. And it is, as they say, all the words in the world pronounced. And I thought, well, here's great because, I don't speak Canadian. I'm not sure what Guelph is or Guelph or whatever it happened to be. But all I did was find that, and I was able to hit the play button, and it said
Guelph.
Guelph. So they said
Guelph.
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 Are you sure?
Guelph.
And what's nice about this, it's a bit of a crowdsourcing type of capability, because what you can do is other people can leave also pronunciations on the website and you can vote on them. So there were two of them actually here. These are pronunciations in English of this. Let me back this out a bit so we can see it. So it was this user.
Guelph.
That was very good. Notice no votes. I think she gets a good vote because that actually helped me. Oh, I have to be logged in to do that. I'm going to do that after we're done with the podcast. But I thought that was useful to have to be able to hear that. And if you don't like what somebody has done, you can vote it down so that you don't see that that has occurred. And if you look at this, the one that was there were two. The other one, let's listen to this pronunciation. That one didn't work out so well. So you can see why he's got -2 votes. He might want to go back in. That was a male from Spain who perhaps maybe should not have left that on the site at all. But at least we have one there. I could go with Guelph. And indeed, I clarified that with some pronunciations that were spelled out online. And that's exactly the name of that university. I thought that was nice to have. Just a reference if you're ever trying to figure out how to pronounce some of these things, a great thing to have there. And I thought that was very, very useful. Well, that covers all of the different topics I had. That's what's happened in my week. Hopefully, you've been able to gather some tasty tidbits from this week and use some of them yourself. And of course, we'll be back next week with more of What a Week. Thanks for joining us, everyone.